Joining us now is Hilary Fordwich, President and founder of Strellmark. Hilary, it's great to see you again. Let's start with President Trump announcing that he supports House Republicans voting to release the Epstein files. He posted on Truth Social, as I said on Friday night aboard Air Force One, to the fake news media, House Republicans should vote to release the Epstein files because we have nothing to hide. And it's time to move on from this Democrat hoax perpetrated by radical left lunatics in order to deflect from the great success of the Republican Party, including our recent victory on the Democrat shutdown. The Department of Justice has already turned over tens of thousands of pages to the public on Epstein and are looking at various Democrat operatives, including Bill Clinton and Larry Summers, etc., and their relationship to Epstein. And the House Oversight Committee can have whatever they are legally entitled to. I don't care. Hilary, I want to get your thoughts on this, but first, can we just have a quick look at what Chuck Schumer had to say when he was asked about why the files weren't released under Biden?
Senator, on that note, just I guess a question that's out there. Why wouldn't they have been released the last 4 years when President Biden was in office?
Well, that's the question every American is asking. Not every American, but so many Americans are asking. What the hell is he hiding? Why doesn't he want them released?
You know what, I agree with Chuck Schumer there. That is the question that plenty of Americans are asking. But Hilary, I want to get your thoughts on, of course, Chuck Schumer, but Donald Trump supporting House Republicans voting to release the Epstein files.
Well, pleasure to be back with you again, Gabriella, even though this is rather a ghastly, revolting subject. I will say a few things here. Number one, there were 3 judges that have actually blocked the release of any files over the recent years, and those were all, guess what, democratically elected judges. So that is a very important fact to remember. Another important fact to remember is that President Trump in 2004, I believe it was, had a falling out with Epstein then over a property dispute, actually, where they're both competing for a property. And then he didn't want him any longer at Mar-a-Lago because he was actually acting inappropriately with someone's teenage daughter. So after 2007, he had nothing more to do with him. He was disgusted by him. And I think that's something that's often lost. Not many people mention those dates and those years and those facts. Those are facts. Facts are stubborn things. Now, fast forward to this release. He promised the MAGA base this, Gabriella. Promises kept. You know, promises made, promises kept. I think it's very important to release the files. Actually, don't forget, Epstein was a registered Democrat. Most of his donors were Democrats, and the Democrats went down there on the Lolita Express and visited his island.
They did, and that point is often missed by the mainstream media. Let's talk about the BBC. Donald Trump has rejected the BBC's apology and has raised the stakes in his potential lawsuit, threatening to sue the BBC for $5 billion. This is, of course, after the BBC doctored his January 6th speech in a documentary, deliberately misleading viewers. And of course, a similar edit was found on the network's Newsnight program in 2022. Now, it's interesting looking at Donald Trump's lawsuits. He's already gained $25 million from YouTube, from Meta, $10 million from X, $16 million from CBS and the ABC. But looking at the BBC, I mean, and the reaction to this, so many people are pleased that the BBC is being called out for its bias. Here is former UK Prime Minister Liz Truss.
There are lots of people in Britain who are cheering President Trump on and who want him to sue the BBC because they're a huge problem. They've lied, they've cheated, they've fiddled with footage, both in the case of President Trump, but also covering up what's happening in Britain, whether it's mass migration, whether it's our economic problems. They are always biased towards the left, and the British taxpayer has had to pay for all of this fake news. So there is a lot of excitement amongst Conservatives in Britain at the moment that President Trump is actually taking the BBC on.
Hilary, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, the BBC has certainly been exposed here.
Oh, yes. And I would say Liz Truss is right, and she's right, and she's right. What's very important, I think, for Australian viewers and global viewers around the world, in the US, at least, the taxpayers fund PBS, which is the public broadcasting system. And exactly what Liz Truss just said there, the British taxpayer to watch television has to pay a television license. That's what funds the BBC. So if you're funded by the people, you have to be objective so that you represent all of the people. I don't know if you have the similar thing in Australia, but it's a very important point. point. I mean, networks can be biased. They can be left-wing if they want, and if they want to be right-wing. I think actually conservative is usually very sensible and more moderate than people give it credit for. But in this instance, I would say that, yeah, very importantly, you're paying to have something you don't necessarily want or believe in. And what's more egregious than anything is that the BBC's then, it's one thing to make, in quotes, a mistake, which they didn't do, it was deliberate. But then the apology, Gabriella, was an apology for an apology because they said it was misjudgment. It wasn't a misjudgment. It was a deliberate attempt. And that's what Liz Truss said. And I totally agree with her.
Now, the Oxford Union... Oh, yes, please continue.
Sorry, one last point I didn't make one last point, and that is Donald Trump didn't just beat, remember, the Democrats in the election, Gabriella. He beat all of social media. And this just proves he beat the actual media, too, in many nations because they were against him.
Yep, clearly against him. Now, the Oxford Union has voted overwhelmingly in favour of declaring Israel a bigger threat than Iran. A debate took place at the Oxford Union Society on Thursday evening, discussing a motion which aimed to declare Israel more of a threat to regional stability. It's interesting, Hillel Neuer, the executive director of UN Watch, made the point that Israel does not arm terror proxies in 5 Arab countries. The regime of Iran does that. He also said that in his debate at the Oxford Union, he said that their proposition that Israel is a greater threat to regional stability than Iran struck me as deep satire. But then I recalled that 501 of their members voted to back the student chair who cheered the killing of Charlie Kirk. I mean, that's what I thought of as well, that you had the head of the Oxford Union, I mean, celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk. But can I get your thoughts on the Oxford Union voting to overwhelmingly declare Israel a bigger threat than Iran, Hillary?
Well, maybe they didn't, Gabriella, hear about October 7th. I think that Israel obviously was attacked on October 7th. I actually was on a mission invited by the CEO of another network to go with their team and to go to Israel. And one thing that we learned there was Hamas, not only did they attack the Palestinians, obviously funded by and helped by the Iranians, but then that 5,000 actual civilians went in to have fun to murder more people. Now, they actually are exactly the same as the Iranians. I think the Iranians obviously were backing that. They allowed that to happen. They knew that that was happening. So they're culpable as well. And I think this is actually a very despicable vote. It just shows where they're from, and that actually I would say it's very sad for Oxford to see Oxford go this way.
Absolutely. Look, we've spoken about TDS quite a bit on this program, and it turns out it's a real thing. A psychotherapist has revealed that 75% of the patients he sees actually have this deep hatred for Donald Trump, and he's kind of gone into detail of what that looks like.
First of all, identify it for us. You're in a session and you pick up on what?
Well, Harris, it doesn't take long for me to pick up on this. People are obsessed with Trump. They're fixated. They're hyper-fixated on Trump. And they talk about some of the features of this disorder. They can't sleep. They feel traumatized by Mr. Trump. They feel restless. I had one patient who said she couldn't enjoy a vacation because anytime she saw Trump in the news or on her device, she felt triggered. So this is a profound pathology, and I would even go so far as to call it the defining pathology of our time.
Now, Hillary was speaking about the BBC earlier. I think the mainstream media is to blame here. I mean, when you've got the mainstream media, leftist media, just putting out so much fake news against Donald Trump, plenty of woke so-called journalists compare him to Hitler, compare the Republican Party to Nazis. I mean, no wonder there are people in America that are getting this kind of extreme TDS.
Oh, I totally agree. And I have a prescription, actually, that will be the solution for this ghastly condition that they have. And that is, why don't they watch some more of Sky News Australia or the other networks I'm on, GB News and Newsmax in the US? They're watching networks like the BBC. And actually, it's a very serious issue because, again, the BBC used to be the bastion of serious, moderate, actually accurate news, and it is no longer. It is the Brit bashing corporation, and they actually have manipulated and misrepresented facts. And so I think that these actually, I feel sorry for these people because obviously they're thinking that the networks are the same way that they were years ago. Watch Sky News Australia, they'll feel much better.
Great advice, very important advice, great prescription, I suppose. Look, I suspect plenty of these people have TDS. A new poll has revealed that 40% of young American women want to leave America permanently. This is according to a new Gallup poll. It found that 40% of women aged 15 to 44 voted in favour of leaving, and 19% of men within the same age bracket agreed with that. Look, I think the same thing. I think surely they've got Trump derangement syndrome and are trying to escape Trump's America.
Well, I've got another solution to that, Gabriella. They should just leave. They'll
Yeah.
see what the rest of the world is like. And then they actually should look at statistics and they should see how many people try to come to America, both legally and illegally. If they don't appreciate the luxury that they have here, the safety that they have here, what nation the US is with all the opportunities, if they don't appreciate it, let them go and let other people that are hungry to work hard and have all the opportunities and appreciate America, they should be let in.
Well said. Hillary Fordwich, president and founder of Strelmark, thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure, Gabriella, always.